Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Suze and Phil both sent me a note about a story from theguardian.com. Sanitation firm accused of employing 31 children at animal slaughter facilities. Now, here's the thing. I understand that there are some jobs that children can do, but we've heard lately about companies hiring children to work in factories. And oftentimes that is inappropriate work for a child. I would think, however, an animal slaughter facility might also not be the best job opportunity for a child. However, we'll figure this out. Department of Labor complaint says a Nebraska firm employed children as young as 13 to work with dangerous equipment. And by the way, that's often the distinction about what kind of work a child can do. One of the distinctions. I knew a guy who was a manager at a restaurant. And they had one of those deli meat slicers, okay? And you had to be a certain age to work that machine for fear that if you did it wrong, you might hurt yourself. And if you're a child or teenager, you're more likely to hurt yourself than if you're an adult. That's how the thinking goes. And so he said that if somebody said, hey, quick, slice me off some, you had to make sure that the kid didn't think you're talking to him if you had one on staff at the time. And so that's a thing. A Nebraska sanitation firm is facing a major complaint from the Department of Labor for allegedly employing 31 children in job duties that are illegal for those under 18. So they've got rules on this. The Department of Labor filed a complaint against a company on Wednesday, issuing a request for a temporary injunction, as reported by the Daily Beast. So the Department of Labor filed a complaint but also went to court and asked for an injunction to make them stop. This is the kind of injunction that a judge will rubber stamp quickly because it can be worded in such a way that if it's not happening, it doesn't matter. So it would simply say, the law says you cannot have somebody 13 years old working in the plant. So as of right now, if you have any 13-year-olds there, you must immediately remove them from employment. And that'd be easy to do. Now, since you're 13 to 17, so they could also say anybody under the age of 18. And it's hard to complain about the injunction because it's telling you can't do something that's already illegal. But the point there is that if they keep doing it, then it looks even worse because they've been notified. Because someone's always going to make the argument and go, I didn't know this person was only 16. I didn't know. And they're going to blame it on a contractor or a subcontractor or some kind of a hiring firm or something. So the Department of Labor has accused the company of employing 31 children aged 13 to 17 to engage in cleanup of dangerous power-driven equipment at various animal slaughter and meat packing locations. The department's accusations include the company allegedly making minors under the age of 16 work past 7 o'clock on a weekday, making them work for more than 18 hours during the academic year when school is open, and making them engage in duties that involve hazardous machinery, specifically in a slaughtering and meat packing establishment such as meat and bone cutting saws. The department's wage and hour division investigated the issue based on a tip that there might be minors working at facilities of the meatpacking chain, which is a client of that company that's accused of hiring these people. And by minors, we mean M-I-N-O-R-S, minors, those who are under the age of adulthood. Between September and October, they conducted surveillance and found minors entering a Grand Island, Nebraska facility, as well as one in Worthington, Minnesota. Other investigations, including interviewing minors at a Marshall, Minnesota facility of a separate company, which is also a client of the company that's accused of hiring these kids. At the Grand Island location, a 13-year-old suffered severe burns from chemical cleaners. And this is exactly why you don't hire children to do work that should be handled by adults, because if they're dealing with things like, corrosive chemicals to clean stuff. So the complaint further alleged that the company created roadblocks to the department in its effort to conduct an investigation, a move that plaintiffs said perpetuates oppressive child labor. Plaintiffs here are the Department of Labor. Their allegations of obstruction stem from a series of actions from the facility personnel. The temporary restraining order would play a crucial role in furthering the irreparable harm that the operation has caused the children, the complaint claims. So it's a crucial role in keeping it from getting worse, because that's one of the things you plead to get a temporary restraining order and an injunction, is that you're going to suffer irreparable harm if it's not granted. So if you say there's children working here who should not be working by law, we want you to order them to stop. And one thing that could happen if you don't grant this order is that children might keep working there illegally and get hurt. And so some people, like I said, are going to say, well, ordering them not to break the law seems kind of pointless. Well, one of the things they're looking at is a lot of the laws that they have will say things like, if you do this negligently, here's what happens to you. If you do it intentionally, here's what happens to you. And the intentional one has a harsher penalty. And so if you've been notified via a temporary restraining order that you're breaking the law and you need to stop, and you keep doing it, then you just escalated it from negligence to knowing. So that's one of the things going on here. On Friday, one of the companies told The Guardian that it was urgently looking into the matter, including an investigation and a third-party audit. So they said they have zero tolerance for child labor, discrimination, or unsafe working conditions for anyone working in our facilities, says the Chief Ethics and Compliance Officer in an emailed statement. In a statement to The Guardian, another company said it's conducting an internal review. An internal review. We expect all contractors to share our commitment to the health and safety of any individuals working in our facilities and to adhere to these principles that foster a safe work environment, as well as to all applicable federal and state labor laws. The company said that, adding that it would take necessary action based on the government's investigation. So they'll do what they have to do, they say. In a statement to The Guardian, the company that's apparently a contractor that's hiring these people said it had an absolute company-wide prohibition against the employment of anyone under the age of 18 and zero tolerance for any violation of that policy, period. So it sounds like they're saying that if there really are 31 children who are underage, it's news to them, and they have to figure out how this happened. They say they've got industry-leading best-in-class procedures to confirm the identities of its employees, including mandatory use of the government's e-Verify system for new hires, as well as extensive training, document verification, biometrics, and multiple layers of audits, the statement added. While rogue individuals could, of course, seek to engage in fraud or identity theft, we are confident in our company's strict compliance policies and will defend ourselves vigorously against these claims. So it seems like they're saying that they have policies in place to keep it from happening, and they don't think it happened. We are also surprised that the Department of Labor has taken this action, given our corporate office has been cooperating with their inquiry, producing extensive documents and responses. We also worked with the government recently and successfully completed multiple audits that found no issues. We will continue to cooperate. We'll continue to enforce our absolute prohibition against employing anyone under the age of 18. So the issue is that the government, Department of Labor, is saying that there's 31 children involved. Now, I understand that if somebody is 17 years, 364 days old, they're 1 or 2 days away from turning 18. They might look 18. I've seen 16-year-olds who looked 18, right? But a 13-year-old would be kind of tough. And if you've got good methods in place to weed these people out, it seems like that shouldn't happen, okay? But the allegation is that it did. And I know a lot of people are going to say, Steve, I had a job when I was 13. So did I. I delivered newspapers. My job consisted of me walking around my neighborhood, delivering papers, and later on, about once a week, walking around the neighborhood again, asking people to pay me for the papers. And most of the people that I delivered to, I knew or got to know, and they were all in the neighborhood. Now, there was a time when I had a route that was a little further away, about a mile away, but it was still a very similar neighborhood to mine, and it was not a dangerous area. And the work didn't involve heavy lifting for the most part, except on Sundays. And there was no equipment involved. There was no caustic chemicals involved. No industrial cleaning solvent involved. I was carrying newspapers, half the time I'm walking along reading the paper while I'm delivering them, And so the real point is to what work is age appropriate, okay? That's really the thing. And just for those of you who may need to remember this, there was a time when children worked in adult jobs. It's extremely common in the 1800s. It became common during the Industrial Revolution. And it wasn't until the 1900s, at least in America, that the feds basically started passing laws on child labor. Because prior to that, some places had outlawed child labor, but some places had not. And there was this patchwork of laws across America. And of course, if you're in a state that forbids child labor and your competitor is in a state that does not, they get labor a lot cheaper than what you're paying for it. And so some people are pointing out that all that was happening was that, is causing some uneven things to happen in the marketplace. And so the feds cracked down on it, and they did that under the Commerce Clause, following much of the logic I just explained to you. And that is, they said that if children are working in the workplace, making things in factories that are being sold in interstate commerce, that would invoke the Commerce Clause. And so they've passed laws, and I'm pretty sure the laws came into being in the early 20th century. And I mean, I've seen photographs of work floors in factories where there are children standing next to machines that could cost you fingers, for instance. And so, I'm not, I'm just talking about this because I know that some people are going to say, but I had a job when I was a kid. And there are age-appropriate jobs for kids. There used to be a time when they made no such distinction, and I think that we're better off with those times being behind us. So if, in fact, they're hiring and having kids under the age of 18 working in these plants, then that would be a problem. So the feds are looking into it. They've got an injunction to make the company stop if, in fact, they're doing it. Company says they're not doing it, so there'll be an investigation. They'll figure this stuff out. But as of right now, a sanitation firm is accused of employing 31 children at an animal slaughter facility or several slaughter facilities or in related businesses. That's from theguardian.com. Phil and Sue's both sent it. Thanks a lot. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. When faced with a large project, remember you move a mountain one stone at a time.